My title is the University of Tennessee Extension Turfgrass Science and Management Specialist. What I love about my job is I have statewide responsibilities, and I still have the budget to be able to travel across the state. So I get to troubleshoot problems in turf. I work a lot with high school football fields, high school baseball fields, some with professional sports. Do quite a bit of work with trying to maintain safe athletic fields, parks and recreation, golf course. Even though the term specialist is used, what I love about my job is it's dealing with turf grasses, but in very many, in a number of functions. Sustainability to some means no chemistry, or to others might mean all organic. But in the way I frame the word sustainability is that we're using materials in an appropriate manner, and that we're creating or improving the turf situation. We're improving someone's quality of life. We're improving the performance of a turf. We're mowing at a proper height of cut. We may be actually introducing sand in an effort to create a little bit of a different soil texture so the soils are more able to resist compaction. Believe it or not, turf grasses are kind of interesting plants in that they, when you think about photosynthesis, they have the capacity to capture sunlight and turn that energy from sunlight into chemical energy that the plant can use. But in that process, the turf grasses give off oxygen. Thank goodness for us, as humans. Thank goodness that the plants are capable of doing that. But in the case of a turf grass, in many cases, they become stressed within the root system because of a lack of oxygen. So it's almost counterproductive. Here's a plant that is capable of producing oxygen to the benefit of humankind, but one of the most restrictive factors as it relates to healthy turf may just simply be that you need to aerify the soil to improve the oxygen level and release carbon dioxide from the soil. When you think about aerifying, I think in terms of selective cultivation. If you're gardening and you use a rototiller, you're cultivating and you're relieving compaction. But you can imagine how destructive using a rototiller in your home lawn would be. But there's a process that we refer to as core aerifying that basically allows for the removal of cores. A certain percentage of the cores, maybe less than, say, 10% of the total surface area is impacted. But what it does is it extracts cores of soil and turfgrass plants and deposits them on the surface of the turf, and then that actually improves the ability of oxygen to move into the root zone. It improves the rate at which water moves into the soil and through the fat, and it also improves the release of carbon dioxide so that the turfgrass environment root-wise is much healthier. Reel mower that was invented involves curvilinear blades and then a cutting blade we call a bed knife. And the curvilinear blade kind of reaches out and pulls the turfgrass leaves to the bed knife where it is cut. But when you think about mowing, one thing I always like when you talk about sustainability, it's interesting to me that turf grasses like to maintain a certain amount of aerial shoot mass and root mass. So if we elevate the height of cut, we tend to see an increase in rooting depth. So if you want to limit the amount of maintenance that you do in, let's say, in your home landscape, you would within any turfgrass species that you're managing, there's an optimum cutting height range. So you can elevate the height of cut. Generally, as a result of that, you have greater insulation. You might be able to see a drop in the soil surface temperature as a result of having more insulation because you have a higher height of cut. And you've also might notice a deeper root system because of the fact that as you elevate height of cut, you generally see that root response that's very favorable. Let's use zoysia grass as an example. That's a warm season turf. It prefers growing at temperatures of 80 to 95 degrees. On a golf course fairway, it may be being cut at 5/8 of an inch height of cut. Those fairways are generally irrigated. There's generally receiving herbicidal treatments and so on. There's a lot of maintenance that goes on just simply because you're providing a surface that will support the game of golf. You can take the same variety and species and manage that in your home lawn at 2.5 inches. And it requires much less management. So sustainability is kind of, in my view, It's trying to determine the best way to get the most from your turf grass with the least input without compromising the environment. When you think about water, it's so critically important. Most sod producers, when you look at sod producers in Tennessee, they'll cite their sod production sites near water. Richland Creek sod farm, or you may actually have wells that are pumping into a lake that is used to supply water from which the turf is irrigated. Sod producers generally want to be able to apply about a ½ an inch of water per acre per week, per growing week. And so that will almost guarantee that they will have actively growing turf grasses such that they can harvest a crop in a timely manner and then reestablish the next crop. And so water, you know, when you think about a turf grass plant, it's basically over 70% water. But the key is organic. You know, you can have a high quality turf that's managed organically, or you can have a high quality turf that's managed using synthetic products, or you can have a hybrid program that involves both. It just depends on your philosophy. But the organic programs, what we generally do, we focus on soil health. You want to maximize the soil environment so that the turf grasses can perform to their potential above ground.